You're listening to the Empowered Whistleblower syndicated radio show, hosted by talk show host, speaker, author, and coach Dawn Marie Westmoreland, and broadcast on WPVM FM LP 103.7, the voice of Asheville. If you're looking to become more resilient, courageous, and empowered, you're in the right place. Welcome to the show.
Well, welcome back. You know, May was Mental Health Month, and you know what? I'm a veteran, and my guest, Dr. Kevin Rumley, is also a veteran, Marine veteran. I got to meet him a year ago at the Horse Sense of Carolinas, and I remember walking around with water in my hand, and my mom was thirsty, and I looked over, and he looked hot, and I thought, and I say hot like sweaty hot, you know, and I gave him water and I got to know him just a tiny bit better. But we're now, you know, getting into June, and every month to me is Mental Health Month. Kevin Rumley, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you so much, Dawn. Honored to be here.
As I said before the show, I'm really honored to interview you because your story touches me. I know a lot about you. I've researched you. A lot of people in Asheville, North Carolina talk about you, and they with great pride. So let's talk about your background, if you don't mind, you know, what you're open to talking about. How did you get into the work that you're doing at the Veterans Treatment Court?
Yeah, well, in a lot of ways, I kind of fell into this job, the Veterans Treatment Court. I am a Marine Corps veteran, which you might not immediately think, just seeing this long hair like I'm straight out of the 70s. But my kind of trajectory, I was in the Marines, and then I actually was injured overseas by an IED, and it was just a whole life-shattering experience. You know, I thought I was going to be a Marine for my career, and about a year and a half into the Marine Corps, an improvised explosive device hit me, killed my best friend, and they sent me to Walter Reed, which is where you get the best care in the world. And it was amazing care. I had about 32 surgeries and knee replacement, femur replacement, shrapnel through my eye, my arm. I should be dead. But through all of that, they were giving me a lot of opioids, just nonstop opioids. And this is in 2004, 2005. We didn't know about the opioid epidemic. And as you can imagine, when I was discharged after a year and a half at this hospital at Walter Reed, they medically discharged me from the Marines. I had a bag full of opioids, but I had nothing else. And so for a lot of years, I really struggled. And my behavior became more and more erratic. I lost relationships. I couldn't hold down a job. And I didn't have any insight into the state of mind I was in. It was just survival to me. But only looking back can I see, oh yeah, it was a perfect storm. And I can't blame systems for everything that happened, because along the way, I had a lot of good people trying to guide me back, but a part of me wanted to just have that all in my rearview mirror. I wanted it out of my life. And so I wasn't responding to people who were trying to save me, trying to redirect my life. And anyways, I kept going and found myself just as involved. I might get pulled over because I had a tail light out or my tags weren't renewed. Next thing you know, I'm getting a driving under the influence charge because I am drinking all the time and I'm high on opioids, and all of these justice encounters and encounters with law enforcement, they just kept adding up and they were getting bigger and bigger. And so I knew I was on a pathway to death or institutions and prison. And eventually, I think I just said, you know what, my best efforts aren't working. I raised my hand like, hey, please help me. That was the place I entered. and I ended up going to the VA, and they put me on a medication called Suboxone, and it was the beginning of the rest of my life. And I'd say, yeah, for the first couple years, I was learning how to live again. I mean, I'm 27 at the time and learning how to write a check, learning how to hold down a job, learning how to wake up and make your bed, very simple things. And I was volunteering a lot. And at the time, I heard about this program, Veterans Court. My friend said, "Hey, we're looking for veterans in the community who would be willing to volunteer with a veteran whose justice involved." And you're kind of like a sponsor and you just walk that journey with them. And we're wondering, would you be willing to serve in this role? You're called a mentor. And so I said, sure. And that was end of 2015, 2016. And that's when I started. I just started as a volunteer mentor with Veterans Court. I was going to school for social work, so it kind of melded nicely. And uh, I had no intentions of ever, um, you know, working for the program. It was just volunteer. I kind of wanted to go into community mental health and work with people with severe and persistent mental illness. But then I was in grad school and I was doing an internship here. And the previous program director, Dr. Howard, he was leaving and I was here. And they said, "Hey, you have experience. We think you should interview for the job." And lo and behold, I got it. And they haven't fired me yet, Don.
Well, just knowing knowing your reputation, it'd be hard for you to get fired. So tell us about the Veterans Treatment Court. What is it about? I know some people know, but I've been telling people about you and this program. They're like, "Oh, I never heard of it." And these are not veterans either.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And it's important to note that in our community and all across the US, we have these courts. Some people call them treatment courts, some people call them diversion court. So you don't have to be a veteran to access these because we have them for civilians too. We have them for families. We have them for a lot of different populations. But the Veterans Treatment Court is an alternative to prison and incarceration. It's an amazing opportunity. Veterans who have a long history of justice involvement, similar to that story that I was sharing about me, right?
Yeah.
Many encounters with law enforcement over many years, but change isn't happening in their lives. They come to us as an alternative to going to prison, but they are actually agreeing to about a 2-year treatment-based program. So
2
we
years.
have them for 2 years. During that 2 years, they're in 5 phases. We have all of these requirements. And if a veteran can graduate from our program, their charges are dismissed. And then we work with them to get them expunged. And that's kind of the legal carrot. But more important than a legal carrot is, for me, I see that they find stable housing, employment, a sense of purpose, community, safety. We do a lot of harm reduction. And so it's really empowering to see the change, but also that the justice system is this vehicle of changing a person's life. Like, you don't usually think of a courthouse or a courtroom as this place where people can get all the help in the world and really transform their lives. So I love that about
Yeah, good
Veterans
point.
Court.
Yeah, really, really good point. So what are some of the crimes? I'm sure like if somebody goes out and murders somebody, they're not going to come to the Veterans Treatment Court, right? I mean, what
Exactly.
are some of the common things that people get in trouble with that you start working with them later on?
Yeah. So we don't take murder. And there's in North Carolina, we kind of have this guidebook and it's very cut and paste. And if you get a murder, you are boom, you're going to prison, right? We don't even have the ability to touch that.
Mhm.
But then there are other felony charges that are available as a plea. And a plea is just an agreement between you, the accused, and the state. So the state says, hey, you were charged with the crime of murder, but uh, we'll plea it down to second-degree murder, whatever it is, right? I know I'm not an attorney, so I'm trying to like reduce this. A plea is just an agreement. We take charges mostly like we see a lot of drug trafficking,
Mm.
drug charges, drug possessions. We see a lot of breaking and entering. We see driving under the influence and driving while impaired. We also see interpersonal violence. Um, when we first started, our program did not accept any violent charges, but research over time has shown when you offer support and treatment coupled with accountability, you can actually change a person's trajectory and change that behavior. So we now accept violent offenses.
What?
That is, of course, pending the victim's approval. If the victim doesn't approve, then we don't move forward. But if
Mm.
our goal ultimately is to stop, say, the cycle of addiction, the cycle of violence, and perpetuating continual crime, these are the most effective intervention we have in the justice system. But I'd say 100% of ours come back to substance use and mental health, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
And so we are what's called a post-plea court. To get into our program, a veteran has to admit guilt. They said, yes, I did this behavior. Yes, I broke into Kevin's house or his car and I took these. I admit guilt. And then they're placed on probation and enter into the Veterans Treatment Court. So it is no walk in the park. It's actually, I always tell veterans, it's easier to just go serve your time because nothing is asked of you. You're not asked to change a single thing. Now, prison destroys lives. We know this, and it destroys families and takes away income from communities and does real damage. But all they have to do is be there. We're
Yeah.
asking someone, okay, we're going to change everything about your life. Like Judge Pope says, who's over the court, we need to change people, places, and things, which is pretty much everything. And so, um, if a person's willing to really try and show up and be honest, as long as they try, show up and be honest, they're going to be successful. We don't need them to be perfect. We don't need them to hit the ground and immediately get recovery because that we know takes time. It takes time to change a lifetime of behaviors. And our program is designed around that understanding that addiction's a chronic disease and it's
Mm.
chronic and recurring. So, but yeah, for us, the post plea element is they have to admit guilt, and this is a plea agreement in lieu of going to prison.
Wow. I have to tell you, many years ago, I was saved by an open AA meeting. So I understand substance abuse, living with somebody who was abusive and such. So this is another way, but it's all about accountability.
Yes, exactly. And you know, right there, that community has 12 steps and they agree to follow these, and you're accountable to, say, your sponsor and the community and your home group, and you're following these steps. In a lot of ways, the Veterans Court is similar to that.
Gotcha. So when they enter the Veterans Court, Kevin, can you walk us through some of the phases of some of the programs that you offer the people?
Yeah. Yeah. So we have 5 phases, and it isn't a cookie cutter experience. So it's not one size fits all. But there are definitely some commonalities. In phase one, every single veteran is basically onboarded, and it can feel like an upheaval of their lives. Maybe like when you and I went to boot camp, right? This feeling of what in the world did I just walk into?
Yeah,
We,
I definitely felt that way, Kevin.
yeah, when you went to the service, you said, wait, what did I sign up for?
But imagine the Marines was a a lot harder than the Air Force basic training or boot camp. I know it is.
Well, but you know the sentiment definitely of, okay, this is going to be my life for the next however long. And we see that with Veterans Court. So they plead in phase one is onboarding into probation, probation being in every aspect of their lives. We're doing home contacts. I'm seeing them 3, 4 times a week here at the Buncombe County Courthouse. They're doing random urinalysis twice a week for 2 years. So they don't know what day it's going to happen. It keeps them on their toes.
Oh,
They immediately receive a clinical comprehensive assessment. And based on that assessment, we assign treatment. So for some vets, they may go inpatient. For others, they may do intensive outpatient, or we have treatment from the VA or the community that we identify, and we're tracking that. Every 14 days for the duration of the program, we're meeting with Judge Pope. And that's not your usual court environment because everyone is actually on the same team. So the prosecutor is cheering and trying to support this veteran when they're doing a status update with Judge Pope. Same as the public defender and the treatment providers. We're all there in this room, and one at a time, a veteran stands in front of the judge, and the first question Judge Pope always asks is, how many days do you have in recovery? And so a new veteran who just pled in may say, I have 2 days in recovery. And the crowd goes wild and everyone's cheering and standing up and barking. And you don't see that at court usually.
but 2 days, even for somebody who's been struggling for years, is a big deal. It's a very big deal.
It's huge. And so there's definitely, we call it this tribe mentality, this community that develops. And the veterans who have been in the program longer start looking out for the newer vets. And after 2 years, those veterans graduate and they sometimes become volunteer mentors. So it's this entire continuum. But in phase one, it's just an entourage of new behavior. We require stable housing. So oftentimes that means we put them in, if they're not inpatient, we put them in a sober living, or we work with First at Blue Ridge or the Veterans Restoration Quarters or Transformation Village. Once they're stabilized, and this is like acute stabilization, then we start unpacking these different dimensions of life. Usually in phase 2 and 3, they're beginning to find their footing, and we start to incorporate more holistic healing in their lives. So this holistic healing for us, we know VA and inpatient settings and outpatient classic clinical interventions are wonderful, but we really want to bring in opportunities to heal outside of just 4 walls. And so that's where we have partnered with Heart of Horse Sense and equine therapy, trying to get our veterans there. We've worked with Pivot Point, who's therapeutic outdoor and adventure, where they could be rock climbing or kayaking. We partner with local universities, one being Warren Wilson, and they do horticulture therapy.
Ah,
It's like we work with the Veterans Healing Farm
mhm.
with Megan and Al, and getting our veterans there just a safe place to be in nature. And a lot of it is trying to reset this nervous system that for years has been screaming, I am not safe. I'm not safe. And so we found a lot of success. We work with Warrior Canine Connection, and they are able to, our veterans all have to do community service. And so they can get community service training these puppies to then become a service dog. And then we give that dog away to a veteran in need. But it's really cool to see, this courtroom, and we'll have veterans who are training puppies and walking up to talk to the judge. And anyways, all of those are examples of kind of this holistic healing that I'm trying to incorporate. We do Brothers and Sisters Like These writing group. And so a lot of our veterans have found peace and solace through writing and poetry and journaling, and then presenting that to a broader audience. We also partnered with Black Box Dancers. And so they came here last year. Several of our veterans participated, and they have professional dancers who spent a week here and did this entire choreography. And our veterans were part of the show that they did on a Friday down here at the Diane Wortham. And it's just incredible. We have a veteran who was unhoused for 40 years and he's doing pirouettes and spinning in the air. And
Oh my goodness.
you just see, all of these are pro-social ways to begin healing and find new pathways of living. And then the later phases, we really want to focus on your forward-facing goals. So is it employment? Is it education? Is it volunteerism? And everyone's different. We have some vets who are medically retired, others who have no interest in school and barely finish their GED, but they really want to get a certification in mechanics or any number of things.
Mhm.
We just had a veteran who was accepted to RN school to get his bachelor's as an RN.
Fantastic.
We had another veteran. I just saw him. He graduated about 4 years ago. When he came in to our program, he had lost everything. But he
Oh,
was telling me when he was sober, he loved golfing, loved to golf. And so part of the journey was healing and getting back out on the golf course. Well, now he is an ambassador for PGA Hope, which is a veteran-led organization to get veterans out on the golf course.
how,
And
how cool.
he's also a pro golf player at a local course in this area. And it's
Wow.
just so cool to see. But that was his goal. His forward-facing goal was, I want, stable employment doing golf somehow.
Mm.
And I mean, loosely, that's kind of this trajectory is stabilization, then pro-social community, then forward-facing goals at the end, and then aftercare and kind of maintaining the gains.
Kevin, this has got to be very healing for you, even many years later, just helping other people, knowing what it's like to be in their shoes or similar shoes, I should say. How does it make you feel to watch somebody graduate with success?
Oh, Don, it's the greatest feeling ever. Honestly, I mean it is, yeah, I can't think of a better feeling. And the reality is some vets do return to substance use, right? We're not a perfect fix. There is no perfect fix, and it's terrifying out there because people are dying.
Mhm.
But even a veteran who graduates and changed their life and may return down the road to drinking or drugs, they still have my number and they still have everyone's number, and they call us and they reach out and they say, hey, I'm struggling, hey, I need help. And to me, that's a success as
Yeah,
much as a veteran who's never touching drugs or alcohol again. To me, that's a win.
I get it, Kevin, because it takes courage for anyone, whatever their circumstances, to say, I need help. And tell me if you agree with this statement that a lot of military people, it doesn't matter what branch they come from, right? But a lot of times we're taught, suck it up, don't show your emotions. I'm retired Air Force and I've been retired 20 years. And if we had ever, even in the Air Force, admitted we had mental health issues of any kind, we would have been kicked out. So I imagine a lot of military people are very conditioned to try to be stoic, suck it up, and they need help, but they're afraid to ask help because somebody's going to judge them or they're going to be deemed weak. Your thoughts?
I mean, that is so true. In the military, it's not an environment where you can be vulnerable because you're
Mhm.
kicked out, your career ends. And
Yeah.
so it is this dichotomy that the skills we needed in the military to thrive are the opposite of what we need to thrive in the civilian world. And so I think you hit the nail on the head, is that, yeah, this vulnerability, and I think it's bigger than just Veterans Court, but in general, men have a difficult time being vulnerable. It's just how we're conditioned.
Yeah.
But that is really this pathway to true healing, is to name it, to be vulnerable. I always joke that sometimes the Veterans Court is all about helping veterans identify, to name, and to regulate big emotions, right? If I can identify it, see how it shows up in my body, I can name it, and then figure out how to regulate big emotions. Could be anger, hatred, could
Mhm.
be any number of things.
Yeah.
Um, all of these things that, say, in the Marine Corps are what I needed to go to combat and fight. Well, that doesn't really serve me if I'm trying to be in a relationship with another human being.
Hmm.
So at the end of the day, it's all about these managing big feelings. And yeah, in the Air Force and Marines, we don't want to hear about you being vulnerable. Not at all.
Suck it up.
Yeah,
Well,
suck it up.
we're running out of time, but there's opportunities, right, for people out there, whether a veteran or not, to help support the Veterans Treatment Court, correct?
That is correct. Yep.
Kevin, what's out there for us to help you with?
Sure. Well, I appreciate the opportunity to share about Veterans Court. Just getting the word out. If you have a veteran who's justice involved, we can take veterans from all 100 North Carolina counties. They just
Oh,
have to reside here in Buncombe for the duration. Number two, we're always looking for veterans who are interested in volunteering, who have extra time on their plate. They would be required to attend court at least once a month, and have contact with that veteran once throughout the week. You can do more than that. This is kind of the baseline. And then lastly, I wanted to share, if anyone is interested, we do have a nonprofit arm of the Veterans Court that helps with everything from supplemental services like dental care, transportation for rural vets, housing. And they can go, if you're interested in making a donation to the nonprofit arm. It's called the Veterans Court Foundation, and the website is just wncvtcfoundation.org.
you're doing great things. Are there veteran treatment courts in other parts of North Carolina
Yeah, great
and
question.
also in
There
other
are.
states?
Yes, yeah. Veterans courts happen to be the fastest growing treatment court across the U.S.
Mm.
When we started, there was us in one other program back in 2015, and now I think there are 11 veterans courts, and they are popping up quick. We just had another one come up in North Carolina, all across the state. And
Mm.
it's a great model, and we know they save lives.
Yeah, we know. So as we run out of time, gosh, time goes so quick and we're covering such good information. It's so wonderful to talk with you, Kevin. How can people find you to find out more, your contact information to find out more, or to volunteer?
Yeah. Well, they can feel free to reach me at kevin.rumley@buncombecounty.org, KEVIN.RUMLEY @Buncombe, BUNCOMBE, county, COUNTY.org.
And thank you for spelling that out, because sometimes people don't know how to spell Buncombe. I've been here 20 years. So thank you.
Exactly.
What an honor. Thank you for your time in this service, your sacrifices, much more than just thank you for your service, but thank you for all the things that you've given up in your life to support others. Thank you very much for that. To
Thank you, Don. I really appreciate
You're
you.
welcome. To listeners, stay empowered. If you need help, you're having problem with resiliency issues, reach out to me. If I can support you, I will. If I'm not a good resource, I will certainly send you to the right resource, and it might even be Kevin Rumley here in Asheville, North Carolina. Stay tuned. We'll see you next time. Stay empowered, and always, always take care of yourself. Be well.